Now for our roundtable with our News Channel 5 political analysts, Mariana Mancuso and Brian Crowley. As always, thank you both for being with us. Let's talk about the politics of COVID. We're seeing a lot of positive trend lines. The CDC saying in most cases, if you're fully vaccinated, masks can be taken off safely. We're seeing good things right now. We're not out of the woods yet. You can't say that, but certainly we're a long way from where we were. The politics of COVID, such a bruising time for this country and the world. And the political conversation's been intertwined with COVID. As we move forward, how will COVID help redefine this conversation going forward? We've talked about it before, Brian, but at this perspective in time and place, what are your thoughts as we move on, start looking to 2022 and beyond as part of the political public conversation?
Well, the more I've thought about it, the more I think it really hasn't redefined anything. What it did was solidify the idea that if you're a hardcore Trump supporter, masks and vaccines are bad things for many of them. And on the other side of it, if you're a liberal and you believe in these things and you think the only way to survive is with masks and vaccines and things, and somehow it became this battle of ideologues as opposed to a medical response to things, and it's silly. I mean, I hope everybody gets vaccinated. I got mine some time ago now, and I'm very glad they've eliminated the mask. And I hope we can get the politics out of this issue as we move forward.
Mariana?
I think that we've seen this past week that the president is really moving toward removing the politics from the situation regarding COVID. He did say if you were fully vaccinated, you wouldn't need to wear a mask. He's also unveiled the partnership between Lyft and Uber to allow free rides to vaccination sites up until July 4th. So I think that we're doing everything in the right direction. However, as we've been saying this entire time, it is going to take a long time and it is not an overnight solution.
Of course, it's not as though COVID, science, medicine, and politics clashing, something new. We see that with, among other things, climate change, that is as much a political debate as it is a science debate. But does COVID, in your mind, supercharge this cementing, if I will, of politics and that nastiness on all sides becoming a part of and obscuring scientific issues? It's something that people have lamented before. I'm not sure that we did anything but move more toward that in some respects right now, Mariana. What are your thoughts?
I think what we're moving to is the problem is that we're seeing a lot of disinformation that's being spread through online social media in particular. And in fact, when we see this type of disinformation of anti-vaxxer extremists, which is what they are, spreading these lies and causing people to second guess science and not listen to the experts, that's where we have a problem. At the end of the day, just like climate crisis and COVID, we have to listen to the experts and pay attention to the science. Truth and fact in this must prevail.
Brian?
Well, I mean, I guess for some people, the earth is still flat. I mean, we need to just sort of agree that the earth is round, that science changes continuously as we learn more information. So people will look at decisions that were made by the CDC and its leaders a year ago, and as they evolved over that year, and they pointed all of the changes as, see, they were wrong. Well, no, it's just as more science comes in, as more evidence comes in, they change the standards. Hopefully, as we move forward, we'll put all of this behind us.
We're reminded yet again over the last week that the political world, Republican-wise, revolves around Mar-a-Lago. Liz Cheney ousted from House leadership in favor of Elise Stefanik, who had a moderate voting record, but in the last year or so became an ardent supporter of now former President Trump, who applauded her elevation to leadership. She has advanced, her critics argue, many of his false claims about election fraud. Those same critics say that seems to be the absolute bare minimum calling card if you're going to win his favor to continue to contest the 2020 elections. So what's happening right down the street will continue to define what happens statewide and nationally going forward. Brian?
Well, I mean, it's certainly remarkable how Donald Trump has continued to be the leader of the Republican Party. And while there'll be a lot of noise today about Liz Cheney and as she makes the rounds of the network news shows today, I think, it's not going to mean a whole bunch. I mean, Mitt Romney and some other never Trumpers have been out there for the last 5 years, and they've made very little progress. This is solidly a party that backs Trump, and it's as simple as that. And it's rather a remarkable feat from the former president that he's still able to hang on to party power that way. That's a very rare thing for a former president to be able to do.
Mariana?
You know, the same day that Liz Cheney was voted out of her leadership position, over 100 Republicans and independents came forward and called for the reformation of the Republican Party or to repeal and find a new foundation for a new party. They're hoping to reform the party, and I think that's really what this needs, because at the end of the day, Donald Trump does not sit in the Oval Office. He did not win the 2020 election. President Biden is the president now, and it's time that the Republicans stop peddling conspiracy theories and a big lie to the American public. This is not the time to gaslight. This is the time to work across the aisle and serve the people who put you there.
Let's do a 180, talk about a completely different topic for a change. The Tampa Bay Times, the headline, DeSantis and lawmakers near deal on Florida gambling. Hello, sports betting. We're going to have a special session next week, a special session, easy for me to say, of Florida lawmakers. And at the end of the day, if legislators approve and federal regulators later approve it, online sports betting, we'd be the biggest state for online sports betting. The Tampa Bay Times goes on to say, for those who aren't familiar with it, that the Seminole Tribe would be the exclusive operator of the digital sportsbook in Florida for the next 30 years. They'd be allowed to build 3 more casinos on tribal property, including Tampa's Hard Rock. And in exchange, you're looking at $500 million, they argue, for the state annually over that period of time. Brian, gaming's always a controversial issue. This seems like it's headed for passage. What are your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to gambling, we've always had one foot in and one foot out. I can remember when Highlight was very big in this state, when horse racing was very big in this state, when greyhound racing was very big in this state. We've always had gambling, and there was a period of time some years ago when the voters decided enough was enough and passed an amendment to limit gambling. But slowly but surely, they've been chipping away at that. But Florida's always been a big gambling state. We just haven't allowed casinos and that kind of thing. And some of the people that always in the past opposed casinos and things the most were Disney and Universal. I think they're afraid some of their customers will leave the parks earlier so they can go gamble. But you know, there's just no stopping it, and it's just the wave of the future.
Final thoughts, Mariana, on that topic, or anything else top of mind as we head to break here?
I think the question that really is going to have to be grappled with in this session is the constitutionality of this. In 2018, the voters passed a constitutional amendment that says any expansion of casino gambling must be put as an amendment on the ballot, and the voters had an opportunity to vote for it. Conversely, if this actually does take effect, this can bring a lot of economic interest to the Sunshine State, as well as over 2,000 jobs, which is something we really need right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and I'll be paying attention in the session next week.
Mariana, Brian, as always, thanks for perspective. Hold your closing comments. We'll have those when we come back.